And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the Jeff Mara Podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Eric B., multidisciplinary artist, conscious dimensional traveler, and 9/11 survivor who saw an angel during his near-death experience. Eric, thank you for joining me, and welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me back.
Let's start on the day that your NDE happened and go from there.
It happened when I was 10 years old. That would be in 1975. I was with my father and my brother, and my mother had left to go to South America, and she basically phoned my father to tell him that the relationship was over. And my father just flipped, and he got really violent, and he was about to actually commit a murder and to kill basically my brother and me. And it was a horrible scene. I'm not going to give too many details, but I saw there was a huge, I think it's called the stained glass from a church in the apartment where we were living, and it moved. It actually was pushed. I saw it being pushed from, I don't know exactly what pushed it. At that time, I didn't know because I was 10 years old. And the thing just fell in front of my father, who was at that exact moment going to start the mass murder, basically. And the whole scene just stopped. Everything stopped. And my brother ran away in the snow with no shoes. And actually, after that, I ran away in the snow. And a few hours after that, we came back to the apartment, and my father had left for good. For many years, I didn't see him after that. And I did see him. We went to live with some in a foster home. We were raised in foster home. But much later, I met my father, and I talked to him about this event, and I said to him, "Were you planning on killing us?" And he actually didn't deny it. He said, "Yes." I said, "Oh." I was actually happy he told me, because I knew it inside, but I was happy he didn't deny it. And he said, "Yes, that's that." And I remember there was this really bad energy in the apartment. It was like something bad was about to happen, something really, this. And but this at the time, I knew something mysterious had happened, because this stained glass would not have fallen by itself. And it fell right in front of the timing was so perfect. I knew something. There had been a divine intervention. So that event, I think that event planted a seed in me, and for the decades that followed that event, I was trying to figure out what was that, what created that divine intervention. Was it an entity? And I finally did meet that entity, but I met that entity decades later. So I was so I was actually, I knew it wasn't a coincidence. It couldn't have been a coincidence. So that was my NDE, basically. It's a different kind of NDE, but it's an NDE.
It's kind of like a literal near-death experience, like you were nearly going to die, and you were saved by this divine entity, instead of like an experience where you left your body and astral traveled or something like that, right?
Yeah, but it's funny because it did set that in motion. I did learn to astral travel later because I wanted to meet that entity who had saved my life. And later on, I could go to that part right away if you want.
Sure.
Okay. That would be in 1985. In 1985, I got this book. I found it. I don't remember why I got it. It said it would tell you techniques how to get out of your body and astral travel. And I read the book and I tried it, and it worked. And I actually did it. And I said, wow, that's easy. And the technique, I could tell you right away, is basically before you go to sleep, you just ask for this experience to happen. And you could put a little object, beside your bed on the table to remind you. And the first night, nothing happened. I think it took like 2 weeks. Every night I would ask, I want to astral travel. I want to go out of my body, and I want to be conscious. And that, like 2 weeks later, it happened. And and it was an amazing experience. The first time it happened, I was, it's been so long ago. I went through the roof you went over the bed. I could see my body, then went through the roof. Then I didn't know how to move around. It was a new experience. When you're floating in the air and you say, okay, what's next? Then I got used. It took many astral travels to get used to going from one point to the other, and it's still to this day when I have an astral travel, I feel very clumsy, because let's say you want to go a certain place, you get there so fast, and it's like the place is coming towards you. You're wondering, did I actually go there, or that thing the place I wanted to go came to me? It's a strange, the way it happens, it's very strange. So for quite a few years, I would do this on and off, and sometimes between the travels, years would go by, many years actually. But what I did is I was in Montreal back then, and I got involved in Hinduism, not actual Hinduism, but I read some books on yogis from India, and I said, "Oh, these guys, they're really good at this." In the books they have this. They tell you they can astral travel, they can manifest things in their hands, and so I went to a few ashrams in Montreal. There's a few. There's one in the Laurentides, and then there's one in Montreal, the Shivananda ashram. There's the Aurobindo, and anyways, I read a few books, and I noticed that to get out of my body and to astral travel, or to dimensionally travel, I had to learn a breathing technique. If you change your breathing rhythm, you fall into a trance state. And once you're into the trance state, you focus on where you want to go. It's not sometimes you don't know where you want to go, but you focus, for example, on a frequency, and that frequency will bring you to that dimension where people live within that frequency. It's basically a state of mind. You have to focus on a state of mind which has a certain frequency, and that state of mind is actually a reality. Beings are actually there. At first you think, this is my imagination. At first I thought that, but after that I noticed that they were not my imagination, because they were following me back. When I would go back to my body, the next day or the days after that entity in the daytime, I would start to see them, and that's where I noticed that when I was traveling to other dimensions, I was actually opening a portal, And a portal is not only a one way, it's actually two ways. When you go to another dimension, you're signaling your presence. Now they know where you are. So it's important to go to a nice place, because after that you have to deal with visits. And so but it took me years and years of trial and error before I got this right. And in some of my astral travels, I went to horrible places, which I still to this day. Actually, now I'm happy I went there, but back then I was actually, there's some places where people they're like in a prison. It's like a jail. It's a lower astral. They're around the earth. They're in pain. A lot of people there are, I guess we could call this hell. I think maybe the Christians would call this hell. There's no devil there. It's just people, and they're stuck. Actually, it's a sad place to be. And they lie, they cheat, they try to manipulate you. If you go there, they're just despicable. And there's this really creepy vibe there. So you're on a wrong place. But I had that experience and I mean, they try to abuse you. They can actually try to rape you. I mean, I've seen some really bad stuff. This kind of place you want to leave.
Before we get too far along, there's a few questions I want to ask. When you said that every night you wanted to leave your body, were you just saying that in your mind, or would you say it out loud?
I would say it in my mind, but actually one day I did say it out loud with passion, and I did leave my body that exact same day. I remember that experience. Actually, that's one of I think it's actually better to say it out loud.
Okay.
And to say it like you really mean it. You have to put an intent in it. And then now I know it's good you can say, okay, I want to leave my body and I want to go to a nice place where there's love and there's caring people. That's also a good thing to do. You're setting it's hard to say you're controlling the thing, but you're at least setting a direction for what kind of experience you want, because it's really hard to it's not an exact science. It's hard to tell where you're gonna go. And once you're in another dimension, there's no sign on the wall saying this is where you are, and you have like what is this? And that's a journey by itself, just to figure out what is this. And it's some of these realms, they have nothing to do with the physical realm. So what we're used to here, there's none of that. It's another realm, totally different. And when in one of my travels, which happened 2 years ago, I was in a realm where it was all energy, strange energy, very beautiful. It's hard I can't even explain it. And I saw a dragon in form of energy coming towards me. It actually went through me, and it was playful. It was trying to get me all there, because I was there, but a part of me wasn't. When you arrive in a dimension, sometimes you're not all there. You're like half there, like half asleep, and that kind of thing. And this dragon was trying to get, hey, come on, you make it, get all there, just be all there right now. And I finally did and then I realized this is a dragon. And I was blown away, because to be honest, I never believed in dragons. Never. Dragons, that's for kids. That's my son, stuff like that. And now I know that dragons, they actually have a realm. And when I came back, from the dragon realm to Earth, in the days that followed, I was outside and I noticed the clouds. And I said, look, the clouds are shifting into, they look like dragons, not all the time, some of the time. And I took pictures, and I have like 120 videos of this on my YouTube. I have a YouTube channel where clouds look incredibly. I actually have a picture right here. I could actually show you. This is not, I don't know if you can see this one.
Yeah, I see that, definitely.
All right, that's not a trick or a Photoshop. That's an actual picture I took in front. And the odds that, so, and there's another one. That one I took at night. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. Let me ask you something real quick. You also mentioned that you would do a breathing technique and try to just, help you decide what frequency or where you're going to go. Were you doing this technique before you went to sleep or right when you lay down in your bed at night? Or did you do that after you kind of left your body?
In the beginning, I didn't do the breathing exercises. I would just ask. And then in the 80s, I got this book on different breathing techniques. The book was called the Yoga Upanishad. And I got some books on pranayama, which are basically breathing in, techniques that yogis. And I felt that these techniques were way too complicated for me. There were too, you have to have one nostril closed and you inhale wait for 3, and I was like, this is not working for me at all. But in the 90s, I went into a channeling event in the United States. I stayed 3 years in the United States in the 90s, and I met and this entity. This person was channeling an entity, and he gave a breathing technique to raise our energy and get the Kundalini working so we could access other realms. And that's the technique I've been doing for 25 years. It's very simple. It works, and it really works. And it's a mixture. The technique is basically you exhale with force, and you will your Kundalini up your spine to your forehead. Then you roll your eyes backwards. Just by rolling the eyes backwards, you could feel the brain is actually shifting from something is happening in the brain. The brain, I think most people don't know that the human body is actually a machine that is made to astrally travel to other dimensions. God actually put that in the body. A lot of people in India, the yogis know that, and shamans know that, and Aboriginal people know that, and a lot of people know that, but North American people, and they don't know that. We use the brain more. That part of the brain we don't want to touch. Most people don't use the brain to get out of they could use it, telepathy and but they don't. And the way to do that is, the easiest way to do that is to change our breathing pattern. And we do that all the time. Well, everybody does that, because when you go to sleep at night, your breathing pattern changes and you fall into the sleep state. But you can't fall asleep if you breathe like you breathe in the daytime. So everybody does that. But it's a great exercise. For me, that's how I could actually attain the higher realms. I have to change my breathing pattern. And then I can't say that I force myself in these realms, because you can't really force yourself. You have to let go and and you focus on that realm and you let go, and you'll be brought there. For example, to make it to the angelic realm, I found out how to do it, and it's actually not that hard. I can tell you very easily. You have to think like an angel, or I should say, you have to feel. They don't really think; they feel, and they're in the frequency. The angelic frequency is a frequency of gratitude. They're into a gratitude state. So if you focus on gratitude, you'll start to feel your body tingling and getting lighter, and then putting a lot of energy in. It takes about 40 minutes to do this, between 20 and 40 minutes. You'll feel that you expand, and you'll be in the angel realm. And when you come back, when they actually sometimes they pay you a visit, and that's what happened to me. And it's like they follow you, and they tell you, that's you didn't dream this. You know, I have pictures of clouds in form of angels around the house when I do this. And you know, I took these pictures, and I was like, that can't be a coincidence that the clouds become like an angel. And finally they go away. But so it is possible to access this.
If we get back to dragons, did you interact with them? And if so, how were they?
I guess I did interact with them. I have a video of me. Actually, it's a pretty amazing video where there's a cloud. I'm outside. I did my focus session outside. The cloud starts to look like a dragon, and turns his face at me, like to acknowledge that you're not dreaming. And I all along, with my camera, I have a beautiful camera, and I'm filming this, and I'm trying to talk. But for me, all my experiences, there's no actual talking. I never communicate with entities with words. It's always energy and feelings and downloads. For me, in the other realms, I've never had an actual conversation. Even one day, some entity was right in front of me, and he didn't say a word. He just looked at me, and I looked at him, and I looked around, and there was this room, this funny room with all white, and you couldn't see. Everywhere was just white, and there was no end to this room. And you know, that was it. Then I woke up, and I said, what was that? Who was that entity? No talking. And I guess I would be scared. Last time we talked, I was telling you about this entity that appeared in my room physically, and I'm sleeping. I woke up, and I look around, and there's this entity with his hand on my forehead. But he's not physical. He's like half physical. He's a sparkling light. And it's like 3 o'clock at night, in the morning. It's pitch black, and I could see him, you know, sparkling. And he takes his hand off, and I saw these little balls of light coming out of his hand. And inside each ball, there was a geometric form. It's really complex. And it went like boop, 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 boop. It came out, and he was right at the side of my bed. And I just got a little bit scared, and he vanished like that. And I was, oh, okay. They're really receptive. They don't want to scare us. I guess he was updating me or doing something. I don't know what. But he clearly followed me to, you know, I go some places. I come back, and I think the entities that I'm in contact with are actually they're happy that I'm doing this, and they're saying we're going to help you, and you're doing great. Keep on doing this. And they're, they sometimes they just pop by, and I can tell that they're just checking. Am I doing progress? They're just checking. They're happy to see that a human being has evolved enough that he understood that he could communicate with them, and that's the. But it's up to me to continue the journey of a perfection to get my communication skills better. But I'm getting better every day at this.
What do you think is the number one reason why people are unable to astral travel?
I would say that people think that they live in a physical world, and they do. But a lot of people actually think that reality is just physical. And since I've been a little boy, I know that reality is not. It is, but at the same time, it's made of energy and consciousness. And once you realize that this is basically just a dream, it's a hologram. We're living in a hologram, basically. It's easier to realize that it's not that hard to get out of the body, and it's not scary. A lot of people, they see movies on the we've been watching these horrible Hollywood movies, and there's always these monsters, and there's always something bad and evil out there that's going to get you, and that scares people. And actually, I've been doing this for a few decades now, and I've never seen that. All I saw was beautiful entities, except on one occasion when I went to the kind of hell. But the other realms are great and strange sometimes, but there's actually nothing that's going to get you there. That's waiting to. They don't have that power. I think that these entities know that everybody is a divine being, and there's no, they actually respect your, they're very respectful. The only place I went that people had absolutely no respect is where these, that low astral, you get murderers and all kinds of nasty people. Well, they're like stuck there. They can't move from that realm. They could, but they don't want to, because they don't want to change their attitude.
How do we avoid that place?
Well, I could tell you, when I went there, I was in a bad state of my, in a ways, I had that frequency within me, so it brought me there. The universe is like a mirror from what we have within. So if I'm in a bad state, if I'm angry or I got some, thoughts that I don't really, but if I'm pissed off or for whatever, I'm not going to do a focus. Now I know, because it's going to amplify that. And I might find myself with other people in another realm who are, on that kind of a frequency level. So now but you can also, at night, you just make a prayer, that you are protected with unconditional love. And but it's also good when you travel, and you have to realize that it's important to be in a sovereignty mindset. I know that wherever I go, I don't want to see no one tell me, oh, you have to do this or that, because that would be a sign that you're in a wrong place. Because when you go to the higher realms, nobody bugs you. One day I went to a place, there was a beautiful castle, incredible. It was like purple, like, I don't know, many hundreds of feet high. It was actually probably what they call the golden plain of paradise. People were relaxed, chilling. Nobody bothered. Nobody's scared of anything. There's no thieves. You don't have to, lock your door. And I was able to access that place. You can't stay very long. You can go there, take a peek, stay for a few minutes. It's hard to tell how long you were there because the time is different. But once I come back, I look at my clock. I know how long I was gone in the physical, but in the other realms, I never know how long I was gone. And then I come back, and that the energy of that place, that kingdom, follows me. And it takes sometimes, it could take like even up to 2 years for me to process the experience. Sometimes they're so intense. It's such like I'm going there, it's over. I come back and I'm like blown away. And I have all this knowledge coming. I guess I got some updates. My DNA was updated. It's hard for me. Back then, not a few years ago, I had a job, and the next morning I have to go to work, and sometimes I couldn't. I had to take a 3-day break because I would go to work and I could barely speak to people. I would wanted to tell them, "Hey, I met an angel," and they would look like, "What?" I went to a realm. There's a dragon. They'll think I'm totally nuts. I don't want that. So luckily, I have my best friends, my best pals. They all know that they've been with me when strange things happen around me, so they know that I'm not some lunatic. They've seen the clouds turn into dragon. They've seen one of my son has seen that with me. One of my best friends has seen a ship with me, because there's, I last time I told you about my horrible experience into a ship. Do you remember the abduction? So
can you tell us about that again?
That was in 1995, actually. I was in the United States. I went to I was near Mount Rainier with my girlfriend and my best friend in a pickup, driving in the daytime. And my friend said, "Hey, look up there in the sky. There's something weird." So in the pickup, I said, "What the hell is that?" I stopped the pickup. We go outside. There is a silver ship in the air, not moving, totally. And me and my friend, we started laughing for some reason. We were like, "Wow, this is great." A real UFO. And my girlfriend, she went white. Her face she was like totally scared. And after like a few minutes just looking at it, I think obviously the people in the ship, or the entities, they knew we had spotted them. They just went like the speed, from not going from zero, not moving to the speed, was my eyes couldn't follow it. So I go back home with her, and I think I don't remember how many days after that, I wake up and I'm in the ship. I don't know if that's the ship. I don't know. And I am terrified. I've never been so scared in all my life. You can't move. You're on a table. It's like the temperature is different. It's hot, humid. It's like a tropical, which is weird. And I know I'm not dreaming, because in dreams, I don't know if you notice, there's no temperature, right? You don't feel temperature in dreams. Now I'm in this place. I can't move, and I've been there for a while, and it's not dark, but the light is very low. And the next day, I think it's the next day or the day after that, the same thing happens. I met, not too long after that, I meet someone, and I think I tell this lady about my experience, and she tells me about her experience, which is very similar. And she says, all you have to do is, with authority, just say, "Hey, you can't do this. You have to release me. I'm a divine being, and that's it. So that went into my brain. And actually, after that, it never happened again. I said, all right, you're right. I have to take more of a sovereign, I could actually say, and I don't know, there's no other, all my memory has been wiped of these events. But the fear and it was so amazing that it was unnatural. I was so scared that it's like I felt that they were controlling my fear level. It's like they had access to, say, for example, your fear level is going to be at 100. So you're actually frozen in fear, which never happens to me. I'm never frozen in fear. And I had these, scary events in my life. And never would I be afraid like that. So a few years ago, I was supposed to go to have a hypnotic regression to relive this experience. I found someone who does that in Montreal. And I asked my son if he wanted to come with me because I didn't want to go alone to be hypnotized in front of this stranger. And he said, yeah. And I thought about it. Then I said, you know what? I don't even want to remember this. Maybe it's the best thing for me is to have my mind, whatever happened there, maybe my mind was erased, and that's actually a good thing. I don't want to remember this reptilian entity in front of me. No, I don't. I rather, maybe he's friendly, but I would be, so I said, I'm not doing it. So I've turned the page on that event now, and it never happened again, because now I actually say that I don't want to live that again. And so I took that kind of so I don't think it's going to happen again, because I decided to create that kind of reality.
Tell us about how you met the entity who pushed over the mirror.
Well, the entity who pushed over the mirror, I finally met him on the 16th or the 15th, I'm not sure, of August 2019. I was doing the I got my blinders. I put my special New Age music that I have, and after I do this 40 minutes where I go into the angelic realm, I take my blinders off. Right here where I live, there's a lake in front, and there's a forest, and I look in the sky, and right in front of me, and in the daytime, there's this angel floating, not moving, and I am the energy coming off. We're like locked. We like become one, and for 20 minutes he doesn't move, and I'm in bliss. I'm in total bliss of, first of all, the beauty of an angel is you're speechless. They don't look like, painters, they paint angels, they show a man with wings. They don't actually look like that. It's even more beautiful, more divine. It's hard to describe. I've made some paintings of that look a little bit, I don't know if you can see that one, but so for 20 minutes, I was able to ask questions to this entity and get a whole bunch of answers. He wouldn't talk, but answers were just coming like from within me, and like the incredibly deep answers. And basically, after that, I really wanted to know who was this entity, and I contacted Daniel Scrampton. I don't know if you know Daniel Scrampton.
The name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've had him as a guest.
He's a famous channeler. So I actually booked a Zoom session with him, a personal Zoom session. And I told him the experience. I said, can you channel that entity, and he said, yes, he did, actually. It's Archangel Michael. And I was, aha. Then I asked him about when I was 10 years old, if it was him. And he said, yes, that was me. And I was, trying to intervene because your time on Earth wasn't your time to leave. And for example, on the 9/11 accident, I think it was Archangel Michael again, who helped me to move away from the tower because I was at the wrong place at the worst time you could possibly be. I was, the plane had hit the tower and I was at the plaza and papers were falling from the sky. And I was, if the towers would have fallen, well, I would have the most amazing death, because of a 110-story building to fall on you would have been quite an experience. But it wasn't my time, and I'm very glad that it wasn't my time. And that was a brutal day. I had after that day was over, I went back to Montreal, and I had PTSD for 2 years. I couldn't. Each time there was a fire truck going by, the hair in my back would lift, and I was like, because there were so many firemen and the noise, the tower falling, and all that. I was actually traumatized. And that morning, I was planning on working. I wasn't mentally prepared to see the huge building fall and with thousands of people dying. And that was a rough day for me and for everybody. But to be there personally, it was horrible. And to see all the people on the street crying and in desperation, what a nightmare that was. But I survived it, and it's a crazy story. It's a true story. Some people say that I make it up, but no, I was actually in the subway when the two planes hit the towers, and I got stuck in the subway because it wasn't moving anymore. And I went out. I was in this station. I didn't know what station it was. It was finally, I learned after that it was Cortland Station. I make it out of the Cortland Station, and I realized that I'm in front of the World Trade Center. And instead of going in the exact opposite direction, I go towards, because I saw the papers falling from the sky. I didn't know there was a plane. I didn't know nothing, because I was, and while I was there, finally, businessmen, people were coming out of the other towers, and some guy came up to me, and he looked at me very surprised. Actually, he looked at me with fear in his eyes, and I was like, why is this guy afraid of me? Because I'm not, And I had this big pack sack with me because I was doing my act. I was doing I was working as a busker in Battery Park. I was going to Battery Park doing my busking. And he actually probably thought that I had a bomb. After that, I realized, that's why he was scared, because he probably thought, there's been an explosion in the tower. Maybe there's this guy with a bomb in his pack sack. And he told me, you shouldn't be here. And I looked at him and I said, you're right. What the hell am I doing here? And so I slowly moved away, walked to Battery Park, and was actually looking at the towers and speaking to someone who said, hey, I saw the plane. And I said, oh, so there was a plane. And like a few seconds after that, the tower collapsed, all came down, and all the dust just went towards me and all the people there. And people were throwing their suitcases. There was a lot of people dressed in business suits, Wall Street people, and there were suitcases everywhere. And I just crouched down. There was nowhere to run, and I had my bag, and I said, I'm just going to stick here. And I took my, I just covered myself not to breathe the dust. And this lady came up to me, and we both huddled together, and we stayed there for a while, trying not to breathe the dust. And after whatever, I forgot how much time, the dust cleared a little bit. and I could see, you know, where the towers were, that it wasn't there anymore. And there was two towers, and I didn't even hear the other one fall. And I was like, wow, I couldn't believe this. A few minutes ago, I was there, and they're so big, you can't even imagine that they're not going to be there. And there's one thing I should say. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to tell it because this is true, and I didn't say it last time. While I was in front of the twin of that tower, the World Trade Center tower, there was like, I just came out of the subway, and nobody's there. It's like no one there, just paper. And I'm in front of the tower, and I'm looking at the tower, and I could see in front of me, and I look at it. It's like reality was dissolving in front of me, and I said, "What is going on here?" And I stayed there for a few seconds looking at this phenomenon. I said, I don't know what's going on. Anyways, and that's where the guy came, and I said, okay, I'm out of here. This is such a weird place. And in my mind, because they were so high, I looked and I said, okay, this is the firemen are coming. They're gonna probably extinguish this fire. So I'm gonna go to Battery Park and do my act. Which was, you know, when the towers fell, it took me 5 hours to walk back to the youth hostel, which I was living on 119th Street, which is in Harlem. There was no subways after that. And I stayed like 3 days in New York. I couldn't get out. They closed the city. There was no way to get out. And I waited like 3 days before they allowed people to get out. And I was into the Greyhound bus that went back to Montreal. And when I was in New York, I don't know if you remember. Most people forgot that, but like I think I'm not sure how many days after the towers collapsed, there was another plane that fell in New York. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Oh yeah, it's the weirdest thing. Yeah, it didn't fall right in the city. It fell not too far away, and I was like, whoa, this is. I mean, there was an accident, and you know, I'm sure people who know will check that online and see that I'm not making this up. But the reason I was in New York is, I think the reason this happened to me is, like I was saying on the other time, is that was my greatest fear. I actually manifested my greatest fear was to be in New York while this, you know, something bad would happen, because I had seen this in movies. There's always these nuclear bombs and happening in New York. It's going to be destroyed by, and I was always fearful of that. And guess what? I actually attracted to be there at the wrong time to live and to go through that fear. So it's a crazy story, but it's true. And so,
can you tell us more about how you think that we're living in a hologram?
Yeah, well, the hologram, that's a tough one to talk about it, because when I kind of ascend my consciousness into the higher realms, you can see the hologram. And when I go back into, you know, my daily living and natural consciousness, which I kind of lose that expansion, and I can't see, actually. I can't even understand it. But once you really raise your frequency, you can start to actually see that reality is a hologram, and it's hard to explain, but we are indeed living into a hologram. And on Earth, we live in a matrix, and that's not the same as a hologram. A matrix is created by humans. As the hologram, it's a natural thing. A hologram is natural. I think a hologram is created by God. From point zero, the levels that's, you know, we think they're. But I can't really explain it, but I know we're living in a hologram. That's the experience I had. But you know, maybe someday some scientists will be able to put, maybe not, I don't know how many decades. Eventually, I think people will realize that. Actually, I think when we make contact with aliens, they're already here, but when they show themselves, they'll tell us we're living in a hologram, and people are going to freak out because it's going to be a big one to swallow. It's going to be like, what? Yeah.
What's the name of your YouTube channel?
It's called Dragon Cloud. Dragon Cloud. And there's like 120 videos. And there's a video of me who tells you how I basically, for 20 minutes, explain how I raise my consciousness to open portals where clouds appear and like dragons or angels. And I explained the technique quite well, I think. Well, I'll maybe update it soon because the video is like 2-3 years old, and I'll make a better one soon.
If somebody wants to ask you questions, should they do that from your YouTube channel or from somewhere else?
Yeah, from my YouTube channel. And I'll ask, yeah, no problem. I got, it's not very popular channel. There's like 300 or 400 people there that I guess it's too out of the box. It's too strange. But I think dragons are becoming more and more popular. You know, there's dragons. Almost every culture of the world has dragons, if you think about it. And that's no coincidence. People used to see them. See the clouds. I don't think they were ever on Earth in physical, but they're energy beings. And when they come on Earth, you could see them in the clouds. And but to see them, you have to like raise a little bit your consciousness, your frequency. You probably, if you're having a miserable day, you're not going to see them. If you're having a really good day and you're happy and look at the clouds, and you might they'll come by. If you're at the right frequency, they'll come by and say a little hello.
Eric, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
One trick that I like to give to people, because a lot of people, I've heard this from people who want to manifest stuff in their life. For example, let's say you want whatever it is, a new car or this or that. I like to share this trick that I learned, and it works. If you try to manifest something in your life, it's important not to want it. Because if you, for example, let's say you want a new car, and if you focus on having a new car, act like you have the car. You have to be in a fulfilled state. The car is there, or whatever object you want, or whatever. Don't want. It's important that if you focus on wanting, if you want something, the universe will mirror that. And if you want, it won't give you because you want it. You'll stay in the state of wanting it. So the best thing is never to want something. Always act like you have it. If you want to speak to an angel, well, speak to him like he's there, and he'll be there. That I noticed. That's one of the secrets. That is, we want too much. We should act like what we want is already there, and feel it, and actually say thank you. It's already there, and things go way faster. You'll be able to manifest a lot of stuff that way.
Eric, thank you for that message, and thank you again for being my guest.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks for watching the Jeff Mara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.